Minutes with the Author. I'm your host, Lori Krieber. This program we're talking with Karen Schrag, who is a local author who's written a couple books, and we're going to be talking to her today about A Solstice Tree for Jenny. Welcome to the show.
Nice to be here.
How did you get the idea to do this very unique children's book?
Well, it came from two different places. One is that I actually do have a solstice tree, and it came to symbolize in two people coming from very different backgrounds, which my significant other is, and what was a comfortable ritual for us. We recognized that ritual was great, but we didn't want to do something that didn't have any direct meaning in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was about talking about what, to the nieces I have and nephews I have, how would I explain why I have this living tree in my living room with sayings on it, and much like it is in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought, well, one morning I woke up and I said, I need to write a book about this, and got on the typewriter, and it really came together in one morning. Now, it's been rewritten many times since then. But that was the major motivation, was that I actually do have a solstice tree and celebrate the solstice as my winter holiday.
Mm-hmm.
The other motivation, or at least the people I was thinking about as I wrote it, was that I lived in the 70s in South Dakota, and very, very homogeneous sort of place, except there were several families who had come from different backgrounds, Jewish Christian backgrounds, but also felt that they so strongly about the pressure to celebrate something they didn't want to, that they took their family away for the whole month of December.
To avoid
it, yeah. And so that's kind of, I got the idea for Jenny's parents, that they were just not going to be around because they didn't want to have to explain things, they didn't want their kid to feel bad, and then lo and behold, they had to be home on December, and she's old enough to get it. So it really is based on some people that I knew about, and I thought, gee, leaving town for a whole month, there's got to be a better way. So, and actually, when I proposed this to the publisher, I had them going to Florida, and they go, well, don't they celebrate Christmas in Florida? And I said, well, I had this image that on a beach it wasn't a serious thing. So that's
they're archaeologists.
They're archaeologists.
They're going looking for artifacts in Florida.
Right. Well, the idea was that if they were scientists who were pretty people who were often humanist in nature and really interested in provability of things, and had pretty much dismissed the whole notion of needing to celebrate anything. But then they have this daughter who, I'm figuring the story is 8 or 9 years old,
mm-hmm.
and quite precocious, very bright. Her parents are scientists, and she starts to question them like they question life itself. And what I like is that role reversal, that she's the one who's putting them on the spot,
mm-hmm.
and but that's kind of what it came from. I also know of a friend of ours, a little girl who's not little anymore, but at the time, she was a very older than her age sort of
yes.
person. So I have a niece that's that way as well. So I kind of model it after strong young girls who aren't afraid to question.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to put that out there as a way that's okay to be. You don't have to be quiet or some of the traditional ways that girls are as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, there's a lot of great elements in this story that I think it really speaks to our times, and people are very interested in diversity.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a very interesting way that you are celebrating diversity, because I guess you don't really reveal which parent has which background, but it's as though one parent was raised Jewish
mm-hmm.
and is not practicing that as an adult,
mm-hmm.
and the other one was raised Christian and not
mm-hmm.
practicing that. And so then the daughter comes to them, and she's, how old is Jenny in the story?
About 8 or 9.
9
8 or
years
9
old?
years old,
Yeah.
Going on 15, just about.
Yeah. So let's talk about the solstice, in case we've got children or teenagers or anybody of any age who's heard the word solstice, winter solstice. What does that mean?
Well, it's the shortest day of the year in the northern hemisphere. And that's why we have winter. I mean, but it is, we're actually losing daylight as we speak, as we get to the 21st, which is the shortest day of the year. And in ancient times, in pre-Christian times, it was really celebrated with dancing and celebration and goddesses and all kinds of things that are pre-Christian. You know, some people associate the solstice with what they would call idol or spirit worship or something like that. And there are people to this day who are pagans, who do consider the solstice a very ritualistic and religious holiday. So there are people who take this. In this story, and many others, take the solstice as a celestial event that universally connects people. So in other words, you're experiencing the solstice, the shortest day of the year. Let's go light some candles because it's really dark. It was a feeling of, you know, the whole idea of festival of lights. You know, the Hanukkah menorah is a festival of light. The Christmas tree, which is actually a pagan symbol, has all kinds of lights on it. So there's tradition in the Northern Hemisphere of saying, hey, this is kind of depressing stuff. Can we just do something? So there's a lot of motivation. Yeah. So that hasn't really changed. So there's two ways of looking at it. It's a pre-Christian sort of celebration of which, when Christianity came in, the symbol of the Christmas tree and the Tannenbaum in Germany and so many other places kind of merged together, which so many holidays do, and people don't really realize. Things like Groundhog's Day, like, what is that all about? Well,
Right.
it actually was a day when the church could put away all their stuff for Christmas and it's the halfway point between Christmas and Easter. And we've lost why we do that. We just kind of do that. Or, you know, All Saints Eve becoming Halloween. We tend to take a modern focus and ritualize something that actually had different meaning in the past. And so the solstice is kind of like that. And so this is an attempt to say, well, maybe you don't want to go so far as to say, now I want to start worshiping the sun as a God figure, but I would like to celebrate the holiday season, gift giving, lights, and that's what the take on this is. That's what the publisher was interested in just helping to support, was that whole idea of, you know, you shouldn't deprive kids from celebration, even if you don't believe in the historical nature of it. And then the idea is of the solstice is actually to look at the beauty of the time and say, we all share this, where we may not share the same history, and that's more of dividing people up. So that's kind of what that's all about. But it's the shortest day of the year. It's real simple in its celestial occurrence, but it's
Yeah, it's a factual event.
factual event. You know, I feel sorry for people in Alaska this time of year. The day, let's see, 11 to 2, that was our daylight. You know, I don't think I could do it.
Well, I think what's very interesting in the book is that the parents have a lot of integrity. Although Jenny, the child, is feeling a little bit of maybe peer pressure, as in, well, it's the month of December, most of the other people on the block have got some type of religious symbol up, I think we should too, is a little bit how it starts out. But the parents, I love this, that they say, well, we're not going to do that because it really does mean something. We're not just going to arbitrarily put up a pine tree and decorate it, you
Just
know,
to feel fit in.
right, because if you were a Christian and you're practicing that as your spirituality, as your religious beliefs, that has a lot of meaning behind it. And I think I know people who are definitely not Christian, but they put up a Christmas tree just to kind of
Fit in.
or be part of things. And I always think that's a little odd.
Well, you know, it is hard when you think of, and I'm a strong believer in the separation of church and state. You know that you know, we have a freedom to worship, but we should have a freedom from it too.
Yes.
And saying, but you know, when they, especially as an environmentalist, they cut down a tree and then ship it all the way to the White House, and I go,
Everybody cheers and celebrates.
Couldn't you decorate something that's already living in the ground? So you could see in the book that I didn't like the cutting down tree part either. But I think that it speaks to us several things. The reason I had the voice of the mother and father not give in is because I think there's a lot of parents today who want to give in to make their kids happy rather than make them strong and make them understand. They want to make them happy. And I think it's really important to understand that happiness is going to come when they really understand how things work.
Yes.
And I do have friends whose parents did that. They got a Christmas tree, because all the neighbors did and they wanted to fit in. And it really confused the kids. They grew up going, what was that all about?
Right. We don't go to church.
Yeah, it's just...
I don't know who the baby Jesus is. I don't understand the story behind it.
And it really strengthens, to those people who really do celebrate Christmas as a spiritual holiday, as a religious holiday, it strengthens them because it's not so co-opted by people who just want to fit in. And I think that they appreciate it as well, to say, no, that's really not your tradition. How come you're doing that?
I totally agree. And I also get from the book, even though they're fictitious characters, I absolutely understood from the book that Jenny, the girl in the story, would be freely permitted as she matures to become Christian if she wanted to. I mean, that's kind of the neat thing too. The parents have their own set of beliefs and how they understand things operate and how they choose to celebrate, but they're very open to letting their daughter explore and be enriched by other beliefs that are going on in the community, and that would be fine if she chose to express herself in a different way someday. I love that about the story.
Well, thank you. I think that there are so many elements that really I realized actually after it was written. I mean, when you write something, when you do poetry, when you do art, anything that you do, if you do music, you do it with one motivation, and you revisit it and go, oh, I see another element in there that I didn't even realize was in there. So as an author, I have to say that it continually surprises me when people get something out of it. I've had people buy it for adults. I go, wait, it's a kid's book. Oh, you're connecting to it somehow.
Yeah.
Isn't that good? So it's nice to hear that that's what you got out of it, because I'm thinking, did I really plan that? Maybe it was the subtext that I wasn't even thinking about.
Oh, no, that's why I think it's a very nice contemporary story of diversity, because that's why I say it speaks to our times. We can be raised with a certain set of religious beliefs, and when you get to be an adult, either carry that on after you've inspected that for yourself, what's true for you, or maybe you would adopt a different set of beliefs. Or it sounds like the parents in the story have a different humanist view, and they are archaeologists, and they travel the world, and they're not practicing the spirituality that they were raised with, and they're perfectly happy with that. And something else that comes out interesting in the story is that you also speak to that a lot of people choose the holiday season, Thanksgiving or Christmas time, to be very active in their community and to do something for others, and that Jenny and her parents have that same impulse, and that they begin to identify what are the key areas in the community that we want to put some help toward and put some dollars toward. And how did you come up with that idea? Is that something that you have with your solstice tree also? I thought that was so nice.
It is. I guess it speaks to a kind of a pet peeve of mine, where goodness is associated with religiosity. In other words, people are good, fill in the blank, good Christians, good Jews, good Muslims, good whatever. Can't you just be good? Do you need, does it have to be written somewhere that says, you really need to give to the poor? You
Because
really
it's a
need
direct
to say,
order from your deity.
Yes, yes. And so this book speaks to the idea of a universal, kind of a modernist concept of universal goodness, and that if we could find that common ground, the act should matter more than the motivation. And if the good act is, if someone's putting money in a Salvation Army, no matter whether they think it's the right thing to do, or I better do it because on Sunday I'm going to go to confession or whatever, it's the action that we should focus on, not the who. Because when you focus on the who, we get the troubles that we see in the world. In fact, that book was shipped on September 11th from New York, and that's really, when I read it with completely different eyes when I read it. And I thought that was from upstate New York, so it actually made it to me. But I thought that was a real. I called like 3 days after. I said, "Is that coming out?" Because they said fall, and she said it was shipped on Tuesday. And I went, "Oh my goodness, will I ever get it?" So that gave it a special.
Your book was shipped. Happened to be coincidental on September 11th, 2001.
Yeah, it was. And when I told that to several people, they just kind of got a little chill, as I did, and I said, well, read it again, because it has messages in it that are even more appropriate in the light of the religious baseness of the tragedies that happened. when I look at how Christmas was celebrated and by everybody in South Dakota when I used to live there, and that was a lot of what I was thinking about when I was writing